In this video, I'm going to discuss the latest application rate for June BTO launch. Let's start with 2-room flexi first. So, I'm currently showing the total supply and demand for 2-room flexi, and as you can see, there has been quite a lot of progress versus yesterday. So for example, currently the town that is highly in demand is Bukit Merah because there are already more than 2,000 applicants across all type of applicants, even though the amount of supply is only 816. This is quite a significant jump versus yesterday. And then the runner-up is Bishan, where there are already more than 1,200 applicants applying for 2-room flexi. I guess another thing that is more staggering would be Woodlands because the amount of supply is actually very small, only 157. However, the amount of applicants is already more than 4 times of it, so it's quite popular. Now let's talk about the 2-room flexi application rate for seniors. Currently, the most popular one is Woodlands with 2.1, but I'm guessing this is also influenced because the amount of supply is very small for Woodlands. And then the runner-up is Bishan with 1.9, which already has quite a significant jump versus yesterday, 1.2. Ang Mo Kio is already experiencing quite a jump as well because yesterday it was still 0.7, but now it is standing at 1.3. Now let's talk about the 2-room flexi application rate for first-timer singles. As you can see, Woodlands now is already in double digits with 11.5. Yesterday, which is the second day, was already at 9.1. If you see my other video where I was discussing the best 2-room flexi options, basically, Woodlands only have about 37 units allocated for singles, so that's why the application rate becomes very high given the very limited amount of supply. So if you haven't applied yet, I would not recommend as a single to apply to Woodlands. Genuinely, I think you would have better chances in applying to other towns. At the moment, Ang Mo Kio has the least amount of applicants for first-timer singles, so probably that would be giving you a better chance. Bishan and Bukit Merah is pretty much neck on neck with 4.8 for Bukit Merah and 4.6 for Bishan. Now let's talk about the 2-room flexi application rate for first-timer families. As usual, there aren't many first-timer families who is willing to apply for 2-room flexi, especially if it's plus or prime projects because of the heavy restrictions. So as you can see, Ang Mo Kio, Bishan, and Bukit Merah is very undersubscribed for first-timer families. If you apply to this as first-timer families, most likely you would be able to secure a flat. For Sembawang and Woodlands, it is also still less than 1, but I'm assuming that there will be more applicants for Sembawang and Woodlands in days to come. Now for second-timer families, for Ang Mo Kio, Bishan, Bukit Merah, and Sembawang, the application rate is still less than 1, whereas for Woodlands, it is already reaching 1.8 as of today. Now let's talk about the total supply and demand for 3-room flats. For 3-room, Bukit Merah is also the most popular town with 291 applicants as of today, and the runner-up is Woodlands with 234. It seems like as of today, the only town that still has more supply versus demand is Sembawang because the amount of supply is 187, but the amount of applicants is still at 168 applicants as of today. Now let's talk about the 3-room application rate for first-timer families. Currently, Woodlands has the highest application rate with 1.6, which is quite a jump from yesterday's 1.2. Meanwhile, Ang Mo Kio, Bukit Merah, and Sembawang numbers only move slightly. It's like only bumping 0.1 or 0.2 versus yesterday. Personally, I predicted that eventually Bukit Merah will be oversubscribed for 3-room for first-timer families. So even though Berlayar Rise is a prime project that comes with a very heavy restrictions, but having said that, it has a lot of strong points that I do believe that if a certain family is open-minded to live in a 3-room, they will be able to resell the flat in the future after MOP for a good amount of profit. That's my prediction. So I'm assuming that this Bukit Merah number especially will continue to grow. Now let's talk about the 3-room application rate for second-timer families. Now for second-timer families, the amount of supply that is allocated to them is very limited. Hence, as you can see, the application rate tends to be in double digits. So for example, for Bukit Merah is already reaching 10.4, while for Ang Mo Kio is already at 10. The lowest application rate is for Sembawang with 2.7. So probably if you haven't applied yet, you can try Sembawang as a second-timer families. Now let's talk about the total supply and demand for 4-room flats. Again, Bukit Merah is the most popular with more than 2,700 applicants, which is quite a jump from yesterday's number. And then the runner-up is Bishan with more than 1,800 applicants. There are only two towns where the amount of supply is still larger than the demand, which is Ang Mo Kio, because the supply, as you can see, is 592, but then the amount of applicants is still at 503, whereas for Sembawang, the amount of supply is 764, but the total demand so far is only 384. But of course, the numbers will continue to change until the end of the sales period. Now let's talk about the 4-room application rate for first-timer families. At the moment, Woodlands, Bukit Merah, and also Bishan already oversubscribed because the application rate is already beyond 1. However, Ang Mo Kio and Sembawang is still undersubscribed. So if you are interested, you might want to consider either Ang Mo Kio or Sembawang if you want to increase your chances in securing a flat very fast. But other than that, objectively, for Bukit Merah 1.7 and then Bishan 1.8 is still a manageable application rate. Of course, we will need to continue to monitor these numbers until towards the end of the sales period and then see whether the number still makes sense for you to apply or not. And then next up, let's discuss about the 4-room application rate for second-timer families. For second-timer families, the highest application rate right now is at Bukit Merah with 12.6, which is quite a jump from yesterday's application rate of 9. And then Bishan and Woodlands are both tied in application rate numbers because both got 8.5. The lowest application rate right now is at Sembawang with 1.7. Now let's move on to 5-room and 3-gen flats. If we compare between the total supply and demand, we can see that for Sembawang is very interesting because the amount of supply is plentiful. There are 623 available units, but then in terms of the demand, there's only 215. So if you are aiming for larger flats, Sembawang provides a good chance for you to secure a flat there. For Woodlands, the amount of demand is already surpassing the supply. As of today, there are already 439 applicants who are applying for bigger flats in Woodlands. Now, let's look at the application rate for first-timer families. For Woodlands, it is already at 1.3, but for Sembawang, it is still at 0.2. And then for the application rate for second-timer families, obviously the numbers are higher because second-timer families gets less amount of allocation. For Woodlands, the application rate is already at 5.7, and for Sembawang, it is standing at 1.7. For reference, here is the latest HDB application rate, and come back again tomorrow if you want to know the latest number. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.